And we're live, and welcome to the weekly Wednesday live stream coming at you on a Thursday for once. We've got the sun here, so gather your friends and foes together, press that share button, and join us as we news crawl ourselves into the later afternoon here on Thursday, August 10th. We want to know what kind of news stories you want to talk about. I might bring up things like inflation. I might bring up things like the U.S. dollar being downgraded by Moody's to AAA from AA+. I might bring up what's going on with Alec Baldwin and the fun case at the set of the movie Rust. Who knows what I'll talk about? I may rant about anything. So hit us up in the comments, and thanks for leaving a comment. Kimberly Nichols. And also Brownie Dog. And of course, Smash Staff. Why not give her a raise by visiting the links below this very video in the description and picking up some lovely merch like Universum Liberate. That's the motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. So yeah, check it out. One of the things that's going on here, let's zoom in a little bit closer here, is the repositioning of the Meghan Markle filament. Yeah, we named that one after Meghan Markle, the Duchess of something or other. And it looked like it was going to eject, and it looks like most of it has actually moved back around the limb. So the Meghan Markle filament there, looking like it's a little bit shy, maybe slightly less narcissistic than its namesake. So yeah, we do have some headlines coming out recently, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later, but congratulations especially as it does relate to our main channel content, which is indeed space weather. Virgin Galactic conducting its second private space flight. So that's part of the reason private space flight is part of the reason why our channel exists as a space weather content channel, because we realized the importance of private space travel. Of course, it's not just SpaceX, and it's not just Blue Origin. It's also Virgin Galactic, rather. So yeah, that's some stellar news, to say the least. I think there were three or four more new astronauts having traveled to space just earlier today, I believe it was. Also, inflation has recently risen in the U.S. for the first time in a year. Now the rate measured at 3.2%. And again, if you've got any kind of specific type of news stories that you'd like us to cover, just hit us up in the comments, and we'll consider it. Allow me to turn off my ringer, as it is very impolite. All right. So, hey, while we're looking at SDO browse data, let's bring up some composite imagery here. Give you a little bit of value-added service there. And again, oh, wow, look at all the comments. Thanks for dropping by, Mr. Minas and Mr. Bordages. So we've got a multi-continental crew here. We've got folks from North America, obviously, and then we've got also South America and Australia represented there. So exciting stuff here, and who knew we'd make so many friends and foes by putting out videos about facts? It's very interesting indeed. So let's see what other news stories we have here. We're not in any hurry to cover anything in particular. Doesn't seem like really that exciting of a news day. And the young woman who was the weapons supervisor at the movie Rust has pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter. So that seems like a bit of a... You think that might be a little bit of an extreme charge, involuntary manslaughter? I don't know. I mean, frankly, you have to ask yourself, who points a gun at anybody without at least checking if it's loaded? And since when do movie prop guns even have the capability of firing real rounds. I don't get it. Seems like a crazy idea. I thought prop guns didn't even fire real rounds, but okay. Maybe that's a new thing. Seems like it would increase their insurance premiums quite a bit. And of course, they're supposed to keep the real rounds and the blanks separated, and it's bizarre. How bizarre. How bizarre. What else do we have here? Iran making the news with some Iranian American prisoners under house arrest, trying to push some kind of a prisoner exchange deal, it sounds like. And now 36 people showing up as dead as a result of the Maui fires, which it sounds like they have indeed destroyed Lahaina. People are fleeing into the ocean to escape the fires. And let's talk meteorology for a minute, as I want to know what's going on overhead for once, as we're getting some rain here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So let's bring up the rare visible satellite image. We almost never show it on the channel because it's usually dark over half of the imagery when we put out our daily space weather videos. So there's the full satellite map of the lower 48. The visible satellite there in its full glory. All right, so what other stories have we got here? I'm sure there's got to be some other interesting stuff going on, so let's see what's up. Scientists at Fermilab closing in on fifth force of nature. Okay. Some muon experiments there. A type of lepton that I'm not going to get into because I'm not the particle physicist expert. That is certainly not my realm of expertise, although I do know a bit. So what is that all about? The muon G2 ring. That's at the Department of Energy's Fermi National Accelerator in Batavia. Where is Batavia? And I just had to put on the headset here to make sure that we weren't playing any audio from visited websites. So, of course, it's always interesting the possibility of having another fundamental force in the realm of physics. That could end up with a unified theory. New measurements deepen a big mystery in physics, claims the Washington Compost. So that's a thing. And it looks like clear skies are several hours away, finally making their way over western Pennsylvania. It has been quite gloomy over on this side of the state. How about if I do a lower zoom? That's too low of a zoom. There we go. Now we'll show the full mid-Atlantic states. And by the way, congrats to Smash staff. We will not divulge why we're congratulating Smash staff, although perhaps in future videos we will divulge information on reasons why to congratulate Smash staff. It's certainly not because I gave her a raise, because I pay her terribly. She's an executive partner in our operation, And yeah, so we get paid just this side of nothing to put the videos on YouTube, which means she's an executive partner. So a small percentage of nearly nothing is an even smaller percentage of nearly nothing. Of course, that provides some incentive to be our IT specialist, website builder, and social media specialist. There's a slightly more southern skewed view. And if you're wondering where to find the chemtrails, you can find those right around here in western Pennsylvania here at the moment. All right, and do we have any comments here? Thanks for leaving a comment. Natexi also. Welcome to the live stream. We enjoy doing these live streams to view them with people just like you. Of course, our regular viewers are commonly seen in our Daily Space Weather video live premieres. We did actually plan to make those live, but because of, once again, limitations on the YouTube software, it would have once again hurt our views had we done it, so we kept them as recorded videos for the time being. If we do find we have those capabilities with perhaps this video, we'll consider switching back to a live format. It could happen. Here's a water vapor map for the U.S. And let me seek and destroy new news stories. All right, what else do we have? So it is a measurement of muon magnetism. All right. Wasn't expecting that. And I was expecting my phone to be muted, but it's not. Ah, yes. The joys of barely functional software. Love that. Love that barely functional software, big tech. Keep it coming, yeah. Samsung doing a fine job there creating some phones that cost $2,000 and fold for no reason. Oh, yeah. All right, what else do we have here in the comments section? Any news stories? Hit me up. Ah, yes, media PTSD. That's fun. Did you know that I have employer PTSD? Yes. Let me explain why. Because my last 5 or 6 employers, I've lost track at this point, have been openly deceptive. Of course, they weren't openly deceptive when lying about whether it's the integrity of their organization, their expected growth, whether or not they'll be outsourced in their entire operation, or whether they'll go out of business entirely. Who knows? It's been a fun couple of decades for employers. It's enough to make you start your own series of businesses. Just don't do it on YouTube, because it's Did you know that the number one job for elementary school aged children is now, or it might be junior high age, I think it's junior high age children. The number one job wanted by junior high kids is YouTube content creator. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that's not going to lead to any shattered dreams, right? It's real easy to do. You just need a team of dozens of people to constantly search trending hashtags on the internet and then put up clickbaity stuff just to get views, whether or not they have anything to do with reality or anything that you're interested genuinely in. It's fun. It's called SEO, search engine optimization. Look it up if you're not aware of it. It will make you want to throw yourself down a flight of steps. Don't throw yourself down a flight of steps, folks. I'm just being facetious here. I was just kidding. Throwing yourself down a flight of steps is malarkey, hogwash, and even possibly poppycock. Bring back old-timey dated terms today. Let's see what's going on more recently. Let's watch the last few hours of the collapse of Meghan Markle. The collapse of the filament called Meghan Markle. Around the campfire, the one that's stalled. There we go. So there goes that filament. Again, it looks like most of it is raining back down toward the chromosphere there. It has sort of repositioned itself farther back behind the southeastern limb. Again, perhaps a moment of shyness for the Meghan Markle filament. And why not? Let's check on the rest of these filaments too, see if they are still intact. There we go. Let's see what the latest is here. Is it El Teide, Spain? Still El Teide, Spain. So still major plasma filaments here on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Possibility of continued coronal mass ejections remains at nearly 100%. All right. So what else is going on here? Maybe we can look at some satellite imagery of Maui. You think that's a thing? I'm not so sure. Let's see if we can see any smoke. I don't suspect we'll be able to, but we'll check anyway. We'll bring up 20 frames here and see what we can see. Let's do a lighter zoom here. And just a minute here, I'm going to get through your comments. Oh, why did I think Maui was the northernmost island? All right, it's not. It's that one. And it certainly does look like there is some smoke being generated there. We'll zoom all the way in. Oh, yeah. Still looking a little bit on the unhealthy side. So, by the way, Lahaina is up here around the sort of northeastern shore. A little bit too much cloud cover to be very definitive there, but it looks like there is some enduring activity. A suboptimal situation, obviously. And what else can we look at today? Let's get rid of that entirely. And now we're just coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And thanks for the comments about my youthful appearance. I don't feel a day over 60, folks. Just kidding. I've been aging in reverse. I've been aging in reverse for the past 5 years. 5 years. Made some huge dietary changes, and they have been very interesting indeed. A little bit about that. Did you know that I've recently switched my basic dietary maneuvers? So usually I intermittently fast. Now, if you're doing hardcore exercise in the morning, you get better results for extremely intense workouts if you do have some especially complex carbohydrates. I mean, if sugar isn't so bad if you're doing extremely strenuous exercise, as you will burn it all up, and you'll get better performance during the workout. So if you can work out at higher and higher intensities, that will you'll get a better benefit, right? So you'll have more fat burning if you are just at your base aerobic levels. If you are in ketosis, meaning you haven't consumed any calories and you've intermittently fasted. So most days that's what I do. I usually skip breakfast, and then sometimes I won't consume any calories until the mid-afternoon and so on. So Cadet Courtney says fructose doesn't need... Hang on a minute. Fructose doesn't need a carrier across the cell wall like glucose. All right. Glucose needs a carrier across the cell wall? That seems odd, since isn't all sugar transformed into glucose? Anyway, for that comment, you, Cadet Courtney, have earned yourself a wrench. We're very lenient with the wrenches here on the channel, by the way, folks. They're just to mark people as folks who've left comments before, so don't feel like you have to moderate anything. That's certainly not the case. In fact, don't moderate anything, because we are free speech purists, so we encourage all legal speech. And of course, we allow people to make buffoons of themselves in the comment section, so beware of that. Beware of that, as you won't get censored. Yeah, not being censored is really more dangerous to you than being censored, and censorship itself is a lot more dangerous to society than not censoring people. So just so you understand that distinction, the remedy for bad and idiotic speech is not to attempt to silence the person, but have a conversation. The U.S. is built on this. That's why it's the First Amendment. It's kind of important. Our forefathers recognized this. However, a lot of current bureaucrats seem to believe that the Bill of Rights is an obstacle, not a guideline by which to operate society. So that might be kind of frustrating to some of you. And of course, it's when the government decides that certain types of posts and so on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter and on iTunes need to be eliminated from view, sometimes with outright bans, sometimes with the ever-popular deboosting, otherwise known as shadow bans. That is what I call evil. And it is actually... It's the definition of what's trying to be avoided by having the Bill of Rights in the first place. So that's part of the reason why I'm wearing a shirt that says Universum Liberate, because if I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free. So, pardon the enslavement. Of course, many people are just simply enslaved by stupid, idiotic ideas. But a lot of people are enslaved for all kinds of various reasons. So hopefully you're not. Convince your friends and foes that you're in the Illuminati by telling them, Universum Liberate. Moving right along to our next subject, which will be illegal search and seizure. Just kidding, folks. Just kidding, folks. By the way, this video has been demonetized for your viewing displeasure. If you have trouble finding our content, sometimes our channel is so shadow banned that we have trouble finding our own content. So, Cadet Courtney, I think you're getting fructose and glucose mixed up there. How is the brain going to turn the sugar that we use for all of our energy into a fruit sugar? I mean, maybe that happens in California, the land of fruits and nuts, but I don't think so. I would be interested to read the study. It sounds highly dubious. You know, Swedish fish used to have glucose in them. Did you know that? By the way, folks, if you've never heard of it, check out smashomash.com/smashteam. It's our own subscription services site. We launched it back in October of 2021, which was probably not the optimal time to do it, but when you have certain business plans, you have to carry through with them, as it took a lot of preparation for us to set up our own financials and so forth, because we needed more capabilities than Patreon. So thanks to everybody who does donate to us via Patreon. However, if you'd like the additional content from the channel, smashomash.com/smashteam. We even send out email alerts for videos such as this one. So a lot of people have complained and complained and complained and complained and complained and complained about not getting notifications from YouTube, for example, that we are going live or that we put out a new video. So we largely send out email alerts. Also, if you haven't checked out the shorts on the channel, those are great to share with your friends and foes. So if you go to youtube.com/smashomash/shorts, you will see lots and lots of videos that are less than 1 minute in length. So those have been, shall we say, a big hit over the past couple of months. Again, check those out. And for your low attention span friends and foes and neutrals, that might be appropriate to show them. Also, don't forget about the Perseids meteor shower. We talked about it briefly on this morning's daily space weather video. Don't miss out on that, especially if you have clear skies, obviously. Coming out of the constellation Perseus, obviously. And what else do we have here? All right, let me put up some more stellar imagery. And we'll do a news crawl once again to find stories, and maybe there'll be a great story about what's going on with the Trump indictment. I know people are very excited about this. I find it to be rather run-of-the-mill at this point. Getting a little bit sick of hearing about all the political nonsense. And, you know, I think people give way too much importance. People assign far too much importance to who the president is. I mean, you know, the president is not really supposed to have very much of an effect over your life, as you may have noticed in the pathetic breakdown of society that started in March of 2020, governors can effectively destroy everybody's life in your state with a simple order, as happened around, I think it was about the March 14th around here, and by March 15th, all the financial markets collapsed, all at the same time, almost as if it was an engineered market collapse. I mean, I noticed it right away. I put out a video that like 4 people probably saw because I found it very odd that the stock market crashed, bond yields went up, which means bonds sold off, precious metals collapsed, commodities collapsed, and cryptocurrency all crashed on the same day, the Ides of March in 2020. March 15th, 2020. All the markets collapsed in such a way that it looked like an engineered crash. You know, institutional investors, the people who manage mutual funds, are largely in control of major market motions. So for all of those things to collapse all at the same time, why? Why would everybody sideline their money and not put it in something like commodities if they're worried about everything collapsing all at the same time? Everything never collapses all at the same time. That's not normal. That is called bad investing. So, I mean, there were some excuses made when it first happened, like one of them was that people sold off crypto to cover shorts on silver or something like that, but really it didn't make a damn bit of sense. And again, it looked like an engineered collapse to me. I think there was some kind of agreement between a lot of people in a lot of high places. It made no sense. All right, let me read your comments here. Just give me a moment. And Mike says BlackRock just pulled out of the U.S. That sounds impossibly difficult to believe. BlackRock pulled out of the U.S. I can't see how that would be possible. And yeah, folks, now is the time for you to steer the way this video goes. So again, if you've got an interesting story, drop us a line in the comments. Tell us all about it. Seriously, who is ever handed a gun and doesn't check to see if it's loaded? I mean, first of all, you should be following all of the rules of safe firearm handling, which is keep it pointed in the direction of the least likelihood of inflicting damage. Don't point it at things you're not willing to destroy. Always assume it's loaded. It just seems like basic logic here. And by the way, he did pull the trigger, because even though that single action revolver is actually a modern revolver, so it's a replica of an old single action revolver. However, unlike the gun after which it's modeled, it still has a trigger safety, which means if you pull back the hammer and let the hammer drop, it will not fire. The trigger still has to be pulled. So if you're holding onto it in a real sloppy fashion, just holding the trigger down, and you pull the hammer back and drop it, it will fire. But if you pull the hammer back without your finger on the trigger, not going to fire. It was tested. The particular gun in the ridiculous incident was actually checked for this and it does have trigger safety. So probably just one of those things where the inexperienced Baldwin, who doesn't know what he's doing with firearms, made a little boo-boo. Yeah, just a ridiculous thing. I mean, all right, what do we have here? What do we have? Ah, yes. Political nonsense is indeed part of the bread and circus. And I can't believe anybody's interested in it because it's so lame. And I feel so unrepresented. Talk about taxation without representation. I mean, geez. Like I just said earlier on Twitter, people have convinced me of being a CIA shill. And if so, I am the lowest paid CIA shill in the history of shilling. Samuel Thomas Engardio states that birds are not real. I have heard this. It almost makes me want to watch and show you some clips on YouTube. All right, I'm going to do it. So consider this a treat. One of my favorite channels on YouTube is Gina Maria Colvin Hill. If you've never heard of it, wow, she's up to 144,000 subscribers now. 144,000 subscribers. That is absolutely berserk. And let's check out a video here that's quite new, in fact. Only 1 day old. Ah, yes, some classic YouTube content here. There you go. Thank you, Gina Maria Colvin Hill. Now, she's been known to put out videos that have all kinds of fascinating stuff in them. Spaceships, clouds are spaceships, birds are spaceships, solar plasma on the SDO, AIA imagery are spaceships. Maybe Joe Biden's a spaceship. I don't know. All right, let's see what we have here. Also, I've seen rain droplets on camera lenses. Those are also spaceships or maybe plasma discharges. Let's check out her most popular video here. Oh, higher dimensional frequency music. We'll make sure that we only include a little bit of the audio. Gina Maria Colvin Hill, folks. Here's a clip. Okay, that was enough. It looks like she's playing a keyboard. All right, what do we have here? UFOs hovering above us. I'm sure it's not going to be stuff out of focus or anything. No. Don't worry, it'll make perfect sense. Here's some extremely highly edited videos. Just clouds. Clouds at a very low resolution and with the contrast turned way up.
You can see that. Since when did we have square clouds?
Since when did we have square clouds? There's some profound meteorology there by Gina Maria Colvin Hill. Ooh, what happened when the observatory shut down?
September the 12th of 2018.
September the 12th of 2018. She's going back years and years, folks. Oh my God, the day the observatory shut down. What could it be? Let me guess. Alien spacecraft?
Plasma on them? You can. They came out of nowhere. They did. They started showing themselves by the thousands.
This is blurry enough that I don't even know what she's looking at. What even is this? Can anybody tell me? I have no idea what that is. Something happened. The description just says something happened. Something happened, all right. 144,000 people have subscribed to this channel. Dag. By the way, I don't think it's monetized, so perhaps Gina Maria Colvin Hill is just independently wealthy. And that's why she's putting out so much exciting content there. All right, what can we look at here? How about mean sea level pressure? So right here, there is probably an alien spacecraft right there. So that low pressure zone there in the North Atlantic, south of Iceland, probably caused by a flying saucer exhaust. And by the way, if you're wondering if I think the U.S. has captured alien spacecraft, let me just say this. The guy said that biologics have been recovered, right? Biologics. Let's go over what biologics are. Garlic powder is a biologic. Cat hair is a biologic. A mosquito is a biologic. So it's a vague enough description that it's just meaningless. No, I do not believe somebody came here from a different distant solar system, a different stellar system. They were smart enough to make it all the way to our solar system, but they couldn't figure out how to not crash or get shot down or detected by humans. It just seems like a crazy, absolutely ridiculous idea. Check out this system. Oh my God, look at that. That system, it looks like the spaceship in Tron, folks. It looks like the spaceship in Tron. So if that's not enough to spook you, I don't know what is. Look at that. It looks just like the Tron ship, you see? Here's this thing. There's this thing. You know, because a lot of idiots on YouTube, I mean a lot of ingenious content creators on YouTube. See, this is like the track that it follows. Yeah. A lot of content creators on YouTube will tell you that, hey, because a thing looks like a thing, it's the thing, right? I mean, we've heard this countless times. There are channels that will tell you that a sunspot is just practically the same thing as a hurricane for some reason, because they don't understand sunspots or hurricanes, I suppose, would be why this is. What's the windiest place in the world? How about that? Let's find the windiest place in the world, folks. As a wave chaser, this is something that I'm always interested in. So it looks like the windiest place in the world is actually in the West Pacific. And let's just see. Nope, the waviest place in the world is right down here. You've got some nearly 40-foot waves there. 38.2 foot waves down there in the Central Pacific. So that system moving away from Hawaii. Looks like the winds are actually going to chill there a little bit here. Man, have a rainstorm in the U.S.'s rainiest state. Yeah, Gina Maria Colvin Hill. That is a good one. If you haven't seen that channel, it's she's great. Shout out to Gina Maria Colvin Hill. Drop me a line. We'll bring you on the next live stream. It'll be a delight. Some pretty big waves there south of, well, really in the Southern Ocean. And let's get crazy. Let's get crazy and go to the standard original fake news website that we've shown repeatedly on the channel. Put my headset back on here just in case any audio comes through, because we don't want any copyright claims. I'll have to go back and edit the video and delete portions of it. The original fake news. CBSnews.com. Biden has declared a disaster declaration there at Maui, which means now all of their problems will just evaporate. Don't worry, folks, Biden is on it. Maybe he'll even send Kamala Harris there, who will say, "We have a fire under our butt because it's a fiery butt, and there's nothing more fiery but this island is going to be our collective. We'll fight together to firefight together," which is what fighting is all about. Fire. AI, it stands for asinine idiot. Did you know that? Asinine idiot, yeah. And by the way, if you're not happy with AI code, did you know that it's all written by people? Yeah. If your program's not working right, guess what? It's somebody's fault. Did you know that? AI is not right. Well, I mean, it's writing some of its own code, obviously. There is a thing called machine learning. All right, so Iran is actually freeing 5 U.S. citizens in exchange for billions in blocked funds. All right. NOAA hurricane outlook worsens due to record warm ocean temperatures. Let's check on that. Let's see if the Saharan dust has been dissipating, as I haven't looked at that for a couple of days. So we'll check particulates and we'll use the DUEX. So actually it is dissipating a little bit there. So that will perhaps help with convective systems if we do see something forming. I did notice that there was some low pressure-y looking stuff. Let's take a look at some forecasts for that area, shall we? So we'll just head to the ever popular, the classic, tropicaltidbits.com. And we'll look at some forecast models. And we'll change the region to, let's see, can we just do the Atlantic? How about the whole North Atlantic? That should be good. And let's see if anything forms here in the GFS. The heck? Oh, there we go. We're good. Nothing showing up in the forecast there, at least for several days. There's still some high pressure zones there hanging out in the north central Atlantic. Once again, a bunch of wind shear, even though there's not that much dust up there. That wind shear has a tendency to break systems apart. Basically, you want stagnant air to form a long-lasting low pressure. Man, it's a boring news day. What do you say? So, Brownie Dog, yes, space weather can affect Wi-Fi outside. Why? Because it can knock down the internet. So, it's probably not going to affect the Wi-Fi signal, which is like in the gigahertz bands. It's probably not going to interfere with that at all. However, it might shut down the internet. So if it shuts down the internet, then for sure. And of course, the internet can be shut down for a whole host of different reasons, the most likely of which being just problems with satellite communications. So that could be a thing. But it's not because the Wi-Fi signal itself is going to be directly affected by the space weather. It's because of the data in the signal being affected. All right, what else is going on here? What else is going on? Head back to CBS News and take my chances with the possibility of audio. All right, there we go. CBS News back on the screen. Of course, there's a migrant crisis in New York. That's one of those things that nobody nips in the bud. Hey, why enforce existing immigration laws? That's just racism, folks, racism. Don't enforce existing immigration laws. Complain about them being not enforced. And of course, weaponize migrants by shipping them around. That's always another brilliant idea there. Some of you may like that, some of you may not like that. I think it's all just ridiculous politics, personally. So, not sure what the hurricane outlook is going to be based on. Oh, just based on the fact that ocean temperatures are warm. All right. NOAA have updated their forecasts, or should I say predictions. NOAA has updated predictions for the Atlantic hurricane season, announcing that at least 14 and as many as 21 named storms could materialize before the year is up. At least 6 and as many as 11 of these storms may become hurricanes, the agency said. So there are none in the forecast, though, at least for the next 5 days. And forecasts beyond that, I'm sure our regular viewers are well aware, are just simply not accurate anyway. This is why the channel doesn't show, 2 and 3 week forecasts for weather. A lot of people think they can forecast the climate, but we can't even forecast the weather outside of about 3 days. So good luck with that. And the Smash News Network logo was melting my head. And check it out, my chest is all full of space, folks. It's like 2001: A Space Odyssey. There are monoliths inside of me. Oh my God. It's terrifying. All right, what else do we have here? What else do we have? That is true. Gina Maria Colvin Hill's hips do not lie. Now, she does certainly spend a lot of time muting accounts and deleting comments. A lot of the most farcical channels on YouTube spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. Did you know that if you're muted on a YouTube channel, you'll type a comment and you'll be able to see it and nobody else will be able to see it? It's fun. Yeah. Content creators, they can outright ban you. We can outright ban you. And by the way, we never delete comments on the channel. We never mute anybody or block anybody. It's just not done. We allow people to say whatever they want, and then I say whatever I want in response. Did you know that there's a benefit to admitting when you've screwed up? All real science people understand this. If you've made a mistake, it's very easy. Just get out ahead of it, admit you were wrong, make a correction, make a retraction, do what you got to do. Don't make a fool of yourself. Don't attempt to gaslight your viewers. If you think your viewers are dummies, I suspect you may have underestimated your viewers. I've heard content creators say this. The people that view our channel are complete idiots. Not enough of them for you to get away with saying that the people that view your channel are complete idiots. I mean, come on, folks. You've got people in fourth world nations that can buy a $50 smartphone and have access to nearly all of the information ever known to mankind. So just think about that. You've got people that don't have plumbing, don't have electricity, and they have dirt floors that, go into the city every day to work some call center job or something like that, and then they come home to their fourth world neighborhood and eventually they find themselves with a smartphone, in which case they've got access to all this information. So, I mean, that's a good thing, by the way. It would help if there was less propaganda, promotion of fraud and disinformation and nonsense on the internet, but there are certain entities that we can thank for that. Alphabet, Apple, Meta, Twitter. And let us know what you think the 4 evilest companies in the history of mankind are. I've got my list. Perhaps I'll share that at a later time. Take that as you will. Maybe that's a related or maybe an unrelated note. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are worried about the dollar not being the world's reserve currency. And anybody who decides to trade in something besides the dollar is just doing a disservice to, first of all, whatever commodity is traded in something besides the dollars, but also doing a disservice to everybody who is now forced to use that other type of currency. Why do I say that? Because you might hate fiat currency, central bank-based currency, which is nowadays you don't even print money. It's just a bunch of numbers on a computer screen. It's just mostly all electronic. You might hate the U.S. dollar. You might hate fiat currency in general. You might agree with me in stating that it isn't money. Its currency is certainly not money. Money has to have intrinsic value and be fungible. So since you can't cut a dollar bill in half and have 2 50-cent pieces, it doesn't qualify as money. And since it has no intrinsic value, it doesn't qualify as money. Silver and gold qualify as money, but not any kind of currencies. Anyway, the point I'm making is that the euro, the yen, the yuan, all of the major currencies besides the U.S. are more heavily inflated. And especially the yuan. I mean, the yuan is by far the most pathetic because China is just a giant paper tiger. It is held together with bubble gum and masking tape. It is completely unable to control its own corruption. It's completely unable to govern its own provinces. Back in 2020 and 2021, a lot of people were saying, oh no, China's going to surpass the U.S. as the world's economic superpower. How's that worked out? It hasn't worked out well for China. Because China outright lies about stuff. And when you do that, guess what happens? Accountability comes. Yeah, accountability comes. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and you can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. Accountability will come. So it's pretty easy. You don't need to have a good memory if you just simply tell the truth. And, don't try to gaslight people about things because they will find out and they will make you pay. So even if you don't have ethics, even if you don't want to, tell the truth and not try to gaslight people and, undermine your own credibility thereby doing that, even if you don't have ethics, just do it because accountability will always come, folks. All right, so here's the story about Virgin Galactic. I'll just show this briefly and scroll past CBS's ad. There's an image from inside the capsule. So yeah, shout out to Virgin Galactic. As private spaceflight especially becomes more and more important, we want more people covering space weather, not less. So, if you think that I'm extremely critical of other space weather channels, here's how critical I am. Go watch Tamitha Scove's space weather channel. She has multiple PhDs in related sciences. She knows a lot more about it than I do. However, she doesn't put out publicly visible daily space weather content. We do. It's not competition. So, and of course, I got into the game because of cosmology. I didn't realize that I would stumble upon the mechanism likely underlying the solar sunspot cycles. That was just That was answers to questions not asked. And on a related note, let's put up some more solar imagery here. How about 193 angstroms? All right, what else do we have in the comments here? I'm going to have to end this stream pretty soon because it is just a slow news day and I don't know what else to talk about. I've essentially run out of subject matter here. So while I am a subject matter expert, I've got to have a subject. Or it's not a matter of being an expert, it's a matter of having something to say. So Brownie Dog, yes, regular weather can cause your Wi-Fi to shut down also. Because, for example, if your internet hub is struck by lightning and is destroyed, or even if a nearby transformer is struck by lightning causing your internet hub to lose power, you won't have internet, in which case you won't have a Wi-Fi signal. Can regular weather affect the Wi-Fi directly? Not really. The range is so short. I mean, there's no viable physics to explain that. So no, not. It's like, yeah, I mean, a tornado can shut down your Wi-Fi. That's a thing. It could, it could destroy a power substation. Tornado, again, it could mess up the wires, the signal wires. But the weather itself will not affect your Wi-Fi signal. These things are designed this way on purpose because the companies that build the switches and so on are well aware of a thing called weather. And thank Gond for these lengthy comments. Sarita, what are you saying? Sarita, nobody's erasing your comments. For the 80th time, nobody is erasing your comments. I mean, maybe YouTube is censoring you. I don't know. That could be a thing. But we're certainly not erasing any comments. Never. We don't do it. We won't do it. We never have done it. It is completely against everything we stand for at smashomash.com. The Neo-Renaissance does not have to censor people. It has to do things like advance science. And censoring people, attempting to silence them, does not advance science. And by the way, proselytizing in our live streams and our live premiere chats does not gain Christians. People get turned off to it because these videos have nothing to do with the religious babble that you keep typing. So have some perspective on that. And God bless. Don't be so damned dense. Interestingly enough, I agree with Jordan Peterson that Christianity is probably the best of the major modern religions because it equates best with the U.S. Constitution. It doesn't really come down on people that are of different religious beliefs. It sort of just allows people to largely do what they want. So yes, huge proponent of Judeo-Christian values on the channel. I mean, they're the reason why the Western world is so much more advanced than the rest of the planet largely, and why the U.S. is so much more advanced than everybody else because of this thing called the Constitution. So once again, it's like we've made a full circle here. We've come all the way back to the First Amendment. So, and this is part of the reason why I like Vivek Ramaswamy, because he can't talk for 5 minutes without bringing up the word censorship. So, and again, this very video has been demonetized. Did I say anything even remotely controversial in this? I don't think I have. But it's been demonetized. So, and that's why I bring it up all the time. It is something that I would prefer not to talk about ever, but because it happens constantly, it pisses me off. And so, I bring it up because while I'd like to stay in my lane and just talk about stuff like that and like what's going on behind me here, it affects things. It affects the science. I mean, I've talked to people that are deeply, deeply involved in heliophysics, and I asked them if they've read the Robitaille paper, which turns 10 years old on October 1st. 10 years old. And almost nobody's ever heard of it. Let me turn you on to it if you haven't. Here we go. Let's briefly put this up. I'll just rant about it and let it scroll. So, on October 1st of 2013, this paper, 40 lines of evidence for condensed matter, the sun on trial, liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block. Just rolls right off the tongue, right? Well, Robitaille's got a lot to say, so that's why such a long title, I would suspect. And this posits the likelihood that stars are not made of gaseous plasmas. The implications of that are vast. There are implications not only on heliophysics, obviously, but also on all of cosmology. To give you a brief overview, scientists since the days of Herbert Spencer, Angelo Secchi, slowly drifted toward the concept that the sun was a ball of gas surrounded by condensed matter. Others of equal or greater prominence, including August Ritter, Jonathan Lane, Franz Schuster, and Carl Schwarzschild, Arthur Eddington, etc., would have their chance to speak. And the sun became a, quote, fully gaseous plasma, meaning it's made of gaseous plasma all the way down toward the core. And there are lots of lines of evidence, in fact, 40 lines of evidence just in this paper, suggesting that stars are instead made of condensed matter. So if you've never heard of this idea, read the paper. And it's got enough citations in there that it could keep you busy for quite a while. This explains all sorts of things, like the relatively stable magnetic fields, the white light spectrum, spicules, and, 37 other things. So one of the important features of this paper is that it suggests that Kirchhoff's law is invalid. And basically what Kirchhoff's law is that black body radiation is only determined by the walls of the container and not by the source of the original radiation being re-emitted by the walls of the black body chamber. You can read all about it. Kirchhoff's law is deeply ingrained in cosmology in general. What does it all mean, folks? What does it all mean? Well, what it means is that superionized materials are probably not just the frontier of human technology, but also the frontier of cosmology. So, without this paper, I might have never figured out the likely mechanism underlying the solar sunspot cycles, because again, in science, I say it all the time. In science, we ask for answers to questions. So, and of course, usually, and this is part of the reason why outsiders have a tendency to advance the science, usually we have the same questions as everybody else, ones that are common and unanswered. And so, in attempting to find answers to those questions, we typically don't find the answers to those questions, and then we instead end up with more questions. But fortunately, sometimes we end up with answers to questions not asked. And when you end up with answers to questions not asked, it takes you in a new direction. And you end up going, well, how could this be? And that's my idea of the mechanism that underlies the solar sunspot cycles, is a combination of both inductive and deductive reasoning. Because, of course, there are really only a limited number of forces and only a limited number of stuff going on in space. Of course, it is a little more complex than just a vacuum, obviously. Otherwise, there wouldn't be weather going on in space, and we wouldn't be putting out videos every day about space weather. Some of the other implications about condensed matter stars is that they are probably a lot more stable than most people believe. And I mean almost everybody. The people that understand the implications of this paper that's scrolling, people like us, will probably tend to agree. This paper also explains why sunspots are dark. You know why they're dark? Robitaille will agree with this one. I've talked to him about it. They're dark because they're flat. So right here, this diagram right here, the walls of the penumbra are actually very hot. However, photons don't want to be emitted from a black body perpendicular to its surface. They want to be emitted at an angle like this. That's probably why sunspots are dark. Sunspots are, you can tell people I said it, sunspots are dark because they're flat, not because they're cold. So like graphite, if you heat up graphite and you have a very flat surface of graphite, it will not appear hot on a perpendicular line to that surface. However, if you view it at an angle, you could have white hot graphite that looks black when viewing it from a perpendicular angle. Just one of the many, many things that are probably validly explained. Anyway, again, this paper, it turns 10 years old. 10 years old. And now he's talking about the anisotropy of solar flares, the possibility that the reason that the Earth-facing quiet is a thing is because of the condensed matter. Because there is a bunch of condensed matter that is suspended in the solar corona. Most people will agree on that, as there is very high gravity and very high magnetic fields. So, yeah. So, and basically, again, let me just reiterate this. A condensed matter star would be a lot more stable than a gaseous star. In other words, a gaseous star relies on radiation pressure from inside to equal out the gravitational pressure pulling in. In other words, there's a radiative pressure coming out and a gravitational pressure coming in, and that's why stars appear to have a surface. Obviously, that would be very unstable. However, if the material from the photosphere on down, which is, the photosphere is basically what we would call the surface of the sun. Most people don't believe it's an actual surface, but an illusory surface, which is held in place by these forces I just explained, gravity versus radiation pressure. Obviously, if the gravitational situation suddenly changes, or if the radiation emitted from inside suddenly changes, the star is going to suddenly change sizes. Here's a thing we don't see, by the way, folks. When a supernova happens, we don't see stars that go away. I don't know of any supernovae that have no star in the middle of them. So if a stellar life cycle ends in a supernova, why are so many supernovae clouds complete with a star in the center of them? Why is that? Could it be because the star is blowing off outer layers of its condensed matter and then still remaining as a star? Could that be? What about the way stars interact with their environment? That's something that I won't even get into because it's not even covered in this paper. Why is there so much hydrogen in the universe and so few other heavier elements? Perhaps this is all explained. Of course, stars, maybe they're different colors because of different types of lattice layers. And maybe the activity you're seeing on the surface is largely governed by chemical reactions. So these are all rather important things to consider. And this paper does have hundreds of citations, and it is indeed peer-reviewed. So everything from the photosphere on out to the corona, sort of supports this. I think really the only controversial thing in the paper is the idea that Kirchhoff's law is invalid. And if you think about the basic physics of Kirchhoff's law, doesn't it seem like the source of the radiation emitted by the black body would matter? By the way, this explains coronal holes right here. This is intercalate gas that gets itself trapped in between the layers of the lattice. And those intercalate gases could be involved with coronal hole high-speed winds. Now, of course, we know that the coronal hole high-speed winds, they don't really come out of the coronal hole. They come out of the walls of the coronal hole. So that's another interesting thing that's sort of, I guess you could say cutting edge, but also, how would a nuclear dynamo inside of the star have these enduring, long-lasting magnetic fields where they just hang out at the poles at solar minimum, and then they switch poles throughout the solar cycle, which is what's happening now, and then at the next solar minimum they hang out there, just attenuated at the poles, and then at the next solar cycle they change positions again. Let me explain what I mean here, folks. Let me bring up coronal holes. So here's the newest data. This is the past 4 days. There you go. So that's the coronal hole situation. You can see lots of coronal holes in the equatorial regions, right? This is the solar polar field reversal process. At solar minimum, there's lots of green up here. It starts to move down here. There's lots of red down here. It starts to move up here. That's the solar cycle. Coronal holes switching their polar region, switching to the opposite pole. They just migrate down across the equator. And then the next thing you know, you're at the next solar minimum. So if we bring this back 4 years to August of 2019, which is only a few months before solar minimum, there you go. You've got these very stable fields. There's a North Pole. There's a South Pole. This is the solar B field, which in many ways is like a net of these two polar fields. You've got these basically radio jets that sort of come out of both ends at solar minimum. And the B field is essentially the extent to which the north and south polar fields overlap. That's why the fields get all jumbled up during solar maximum, because they are migrating across the equator to do the solar pole flip. So yeah, that's 4 years ago. And then here's today. Now, if there was a nuclear dynamo, wouldn't there be some basis for these fields being so extremely, extremely coherent and so predictable? And we believe that the 11-year solar sunspot cycle goes back at least 1,000 years, at least based on proxy data comparing carbon-14 to carbon-12 isotopes. And it's kind of a big deal. By the way, if you want to read more about this kind of stuff, head over to smashomash.com/forum. We built a huge web ring hosting our own websites and servers for people like you to learn more about this stuff. Because again, we need more people doing the science, not less. We just need less hack frauds talking utter nonsense about space weather and cosmology. That doesn't help at all. That just frightens people and frankly turns everybody off of the whole thing. It gets very putrid if you have to just listen to nonsense about any kind of science. I'm sure in the past 3 years you can appreciate what I'm saying. Whether you're a novice at astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics, etc., or if you are a PhD. You may agree with me, or you may disagree. I will not be offended by literally anything that you say. I will be offended by absolutely nothing that you say. Let's go back to the Robitaille paper here for a minute. I'll finish scrolling. So there's where we left off, and interestingly enough, here's a great image of different spectral lines here. He's included an image of helium at 20,000 degrees. That's Kelvin, I'm sure. Oxygen at 250,000 Kelvin. Neon at 400,000 Kelvin. Calcium at 630,000 Kelvin. Magnesium at 1 million Kelvin. And iron at 2 million Kelvin. Coronal loops there, looking vastly differently in different chemical spectra as they emit very specific, what we call Fraunhofer lines. Very specific spectral lines caused by those superheated gases in the sun's atmosphere, known as the corona. And there you've got an area showing spicules that's in hydrogen alpha, especially visible around the limb if you zoom way in. And maybe we can show you some of those too. Let's see if we can actually see some of that. Let's see here. I suspect this probably isn't high enough resolution. Not really going to show spicules very well. Hey, cooperate there. Why is it blue? That was annoying. So, yeah, that's not going to show spicules. But anyway, back to the paper. Yeah, if you haven't read this one, folks, and you're interested in, well, everything from helium. Put it this way, folks. This paper could be important enough that it rewrites sciences like geology. All right? This could vastly affect theories like the Big Bang hypothesis. It could affect hypotheses about how planets and indeed stars form in the first place. Now, it is possible that we will never know how stars form, in that we've never actually seen one form or die. We've only seen emissions that are attributed to this. It's never really been properly proven. There are many articles about black holes consuming stars and what we call spaghettification tidal events, but ultimately that's just a detection of radiation like gamma rays coming out of the cores of distant galaxies. So it's ultimately not understood. Also, by the way, if the sun's made of a gaseous plasma and not condensed matter, how do we get these transverse waves? How does that happen? How do you have waves emanating from the center of a splashdown here? How do you get those circular waves if it's not made of liquid? How does helioseismology work when we know what's going on the opposite side of the sun based on activity on this side of the sun? That's how helioseismology works. This is another accepted thing, that helioseismology is legit. If so, how could you have that with gas? Gas does not do that. It's just not a thing. So anyway, I think it's about time to close this thing out, but we are going to organize a holiday for October 1st. Because more people need to read this paper. More space weather enthusiasts need to be in our field. And to quote Tamitha Skov, we're taking this thing mainstream. People want private space flight. Having lots of people able to forecast the space weather would be optimal for that. So let's close this thing out. We'll bring up some more imagery here. How about let's do a longer series of images here. Let's do Monday through Thursday in, how about 94 angstroms is awesome from the SDO browse data. We'll speed this up a connection here once again, so let me just wait for, there we go. Now it looks good. There's some exciting flare activity, especially happening up there in the northwestern limb, exactly where we forecasted it to be. Is that a surprise, folks? Is that a surprise? And of course, we hope that you are able to forecast your own weather, both on Earth and in space. It's just a matter of at least understanding the way that the data correlates. I mean, whether or not it's a legit understanding of the physics or not, doesn't necessarily matter for forecasting. Isn't that weird? In other words, if you know that variable A correlates with variable B to create variable C, you don't necessarily need to know why it happens, just that it happens. And so a lot of the forecasting that occurs on our channel is not based on a real theoretical understanding. Of course, everything has to have a theoretical basis, right? So if there's a new invention that you have no idea how it works, it looks like magic to you, right? But that doesn't mean that there isn't physics to explain it. Physics, it governs everything in the universe. It's sort of like the science that overhangs all the other sciences. I mean, literally everything's governed by it. Whether it's astronomy, chemistry, whether it's medicine, geology, they're all governed by physics, folks. There are only so many forces in the universe, although maybe there's another one emerging regarding muon magnetism. That would be very interesting indeed. But just because you don't currently understand the physics doesn't mean that it can't be understood. So that's very important. Just saying. And, once again, universum liberate. All right, let me see if I have any more comments I got to address here, and we will close this thing out. Dude, don't message me on Facebook Messenger. Let me just talk about this for a minute. Facebook Messenger is one of the worst pieces of spyware ever built on the internet. Meta, formerly known as Facebook, is one of the worst software coders in the history of software. Their software is pathetic on like an extraterrestrial scale of pathetic. A demonic scale of pathetic is Meta's software. If you want to send us an instant message, do it on Discord. We have a Discord channel for a reason. Head to smashomash.com. There's a permanent invite link to the Discord link. Do not send me messages on Facebook Messenger. I try to avoid it at all costs. It is some of the worst software ever on the internet. So just put it out there. I know it's very easy to keep track of people and to send people messages on Facebook, and it's not worth it, folks. It is not worth it. I try to avoid it at all costs. When somebody sends me a message on Facebook Messenger, I say, send me an email, send me a telegram, send me Morse code, send me Braille, send me anything besides Facebook Messenger. It is literally the worst spyware ever built. It is responsible for all kinds of scams. It is responsible for all kinds of hacking. I mean, Meta makes Twitter look like a god of software writing. That is how pathetic Meta is. It is, and it's always been. I mean, practically from day one. When Facebook first came out, it was not as good as MySpace, right? And it never got as good as MySpace. And then it bought MySpace. And then MySpace turned to crap. And then Facebook sold MySpace. And I think it's still crap. I don't know. But just so you know, not to scold you over it, but just to sort of educate our viewers. I mean, there are legitimately secure ways to communicate with each other. I mean, of course, Gmail's terrible too. Gmail, did you know that the Google search engine reads your Gmail, the body of your email, and then it incorporates that into how to play search results? Yeah, it's not private in any stretch of the imagination. And that's the same issue with Facebook Messenger. It is terrible. And again, this is why we create a Discord channel. You know, you can send me a message that's secure enough via instant message, or if you don't mind the public seeing it, you can send it on the Discord channel directly. We even have voice channels there. So, and you know, we do intend to use it one day. We'll actually have a guest on the channel and actually use the Discord channel to have our guest, at least in audio format, join us for a live stream or for a recorded video. It's very convenient. And look, when in doubt, right, find out if gamers use a thing, because gamers are always at the cutting edge. They're only interested, I should say we're only interested in stuff that works. Same with cyclists, right? We want marginal gains. We want marginal gains. So that's I'm a pragmatist, folks. I'm not a dogmatist. I'm not ossified in my beliefs about anything, and I'm interested in stuff that works. Theories that work about the way that works, theories that work about the way that stuff behind me works, and theories about software and social media sites that work. That's part of the reason why we built our own web ring. So anyway, but yeah, definitely hit us up on Discord. Of course, Twitter messages, everybody knows now because of recent news that those are obviously not secure. I don't know if anybody ever thought they were secure in the first place. And let me just read these final comments here, and then I'm going to close this thing out. So once again, thanks to everybody who has tuned in and left comments. It is always a delight seeing each of you, seeing all the friendly faces and the new viewers as well. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. We remain surprised. You know, when we started this channel, we started out by doing fake news alarmist weather reports. That was how we started out. We got to about 200 subscribers, and I was surprised to reach about 200 subscribers, frankly, doing anything. And it was all just comedy, sort of poking fun at some alarmist channels that we actually used to watch back then on YouTube. So it's been a delight as we approach 4,000 subscribers. We're probably not going to celebrate that in any way, as I don't consider that a milestone at all. Maybe 5,000, but not 4,000. So anyway, press the share button, especially if you're an influencer. Drop us a line. If you want us to be on your channel, hit me up. I'll consider it. And in most cases, I'll say yes, regardless of what your channel is about. I've got nuanced opinions on all kinds of topics that I never talk about on the channel. All right, so what do we have here? What do we have? And welcome Troll McClure from Czechia, right? Cheers. Oh my gosh, you were messaging me about time dilation just an hour ago. Isn't that weird? How could that be? I mean, is it because maybe the messages were traveling at nearly light speed and their clocks were running slower than the rest of the universe? Maybe, who knows? But in any case, thanks for tuning in, folks. Once again, we'll see you soon. We'll be back with another daily space weather video tomorrow. Don't forget to visit our websites. You can find links below this video in the description. Head to smashomash.com. You can find that Discord channel that I talked about, and all of our links to social media. So if you want to share content with us, you can do it on the Discord channel. You can do it via an at Twitter. You can do it via an at. You can, tag me in an at Instagram or something like that if there's something you'd like us to show. And I have got to go cook some basil garlic chicken nuggets, homemade style. So anyway, I'm out. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And may that solar wind be at your back.